Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 24 playthrough of the Buffalo Wings. We are just past the trade deadline, August 1st, 2047, and our Buffalo Wings are having a dominant regular season, a 12-game lead on the Washington Nationals in the National League East, and an 8-game lead on the San Diego Padres for the best record in baseball. So the goal is certainly to wrap up a 20th consecutive playoff appearance, but really that is not in much doubt at this point. The real goals are to clinch the best record in baseball as soon as possible and to ensure that this team is healthy and well and at 100% for the playoffs. And right now, we're in a pretty good situation as far as injuries. Arturo Casares, the brilliant young outfielder, suffered a concussion a few days ago, 5 days ago, and we put him on the IL just to be cautious with him, even though supposedly it was a mild concussion. We also just got back our excellent stopper, Floyd Auclair, from the injured list. He pitched one game in Albany, kind of getting himself back into the groove again, and is back in the stopper role. One small piece of negativity in what has been a great season. It looks like we're probably getting to the point where this is going to be Alexis Barajas last year with us. Performance on the field has been fine, 10-4 with a 3.13 ERA. The second most wins and the second lowest ERA among our starters. But his stuff is really declining pretty rapidly right now. You take a look at the latest scouting report on him that we just got back in early July, and his stuff's dropped off by 10 points since before the season. And his velocity, he used to be getting into the mid-90s. Now he's barely touching 90. Fortunately, we have structured his contract reasonably. We've got a team option for $22 million next year that, barring something unforeseen, we will likely be declining. Still think that we are in pretty good shape for the playoffs with Vidale, Lance, and Danny Black as the top three in our rotation, but not a guarantee that Barajas will be our fourth starter. Jim Coles is certainly in the mix. And honestly, some of the young guys who haven't pitched much at the major league level, like Joey Bills, R.E. Caper, could certainly be in the mix for being a fourth starter for us as well. Just something that we'll keep an eye on. Kind of felt when we made the free agent acquisition for Nehemiah Vidale this offseason that declining the Barajas option might be a way to make that big contract for Vidale a little more palatable starting next season. And it was also an insurance policy in case Barajas' skills started to decline. And unfortunately, it seems like we might be in that situation with him at this point. Again, he's performing really well on the field. It would kind of stink if we let him go and he goes and continues his career somewhere else. He's been a cornerstone of this franchise, the only remaining member of the team who's been on all 5 of our World Series championship teams. The Deshaun Seifu, who retired a year and a half ago, who was the only other player who was on all 5 of those teams. But unlike Seifu, Barajas is not an original Buffalo Wing. He had 3.5 seasons in Miami before we made a blockbuster to bring him over to become our ace. He's had an outstanding run in Buffalo, 203 and 92 record with a 3.23 ERA. He won his lone Cy Young Award a little over a decade ago and has been a perennial all-star for us. So disappointing that it might be the final run here with him. And as I said, it's conceivable he may not even be in the rotation as our fourth starter come playoff time. We'll continue to get updated scouting reports, see how everybody's doing. Don't think it changes that our goals are still to have the best record in baseball and to be healthy come playoff time, but just one more of those little things that we will be monitoring in the coming weeks and months. And Arturo Casares is now ready to come off of the IL. You may remember that we made trades for a couple of our former players before the trade deadline. One was Arturo Flores, who has just a 190 batting average and 21 at-bats. Does have a homer and 2 ribbies, but hasn't been incredibly productive for us. The other is Juan Romero, who's a bit younger than Flores, hitting .556 with 4 homers and 8 ribbies in 18 at-bats for us. He's also more versatile defensively than Flores. He's a better defensive first baseman and can also play the corner outfield spots. They're both captains. Romero is an Iron Man, while Flores is only durable. So if we have to cut one of them, it will be Flores. We're still going to just make sure we look at all the permutations possible, and if there's a method by which we can keep both of them, just in terms of insurance, we'll do it, because I would have to think that either of those players would refuse a minor league assignment. But we'll see. Right now, I think Flores' roster spot is definitely in a bit of jeopardy. And Flores actually does, because he came up so young, have 2 option years left, but he did refuse a minor league assignment. We had been thinking about sending Jamari Habersham down, since the 30-year-old does have an option year left. He might refuse the assignment as well, but Habersham is hitting .321 for us this year with 26 steals. He is our leadoff hitter. He's been productive. So we are going to waive and DFA Mr. Flores. As I said, Romero has hit better for us, is younger, is also a captain, and is more versatile defensively, since he can play the corner outfield spots in addition to first base. So think that that makes sense. If no one picks up Flores, and after being waived and DFA'd, he decides he's willing to hang out on our AAA team, that would be great. Not necessarily expecting it, but it is what it is. And as we head into mid-August, we've lost 2 in a row. Our lead on the Nationals is down to 10.5 games. And the Padres continue to win all the time, 8 consecutive wins. And the Padres are now lurking just 6.5 games behind us for the best record in baseball. Still think we're in a very good position to hold on to the best record in baseball and hold on to the NL East. But when the 2 teams chasing you have won 7 and 8 games in a row respectively, it does make things a little more challenging. And another week in the books, things are kind of stabilizing a bit in the standings with the Nationals and Padres, as they are no longer winning every game that they play. We have gotten another round of scouting reports, and Mr. Barajas has lost another mile of velocity already. So we've actually just promoted Coles to be the number 4 starter over Barajas. I think at this point it's pretty unlikely we're going to have Barajas pitching critical games for us in the playoffs. His stuff is down to average, doesn't throw incredibly hard anymore. I think he can still probably be a useful arm out of the bullpen, but I think right now we're trying to start preparing for the potential eventuality that he will not be on our rotation in the playoffs this year, and he probably won't be a member of our team next season. Another week in the book, 11.5 up on the Nationals, and we are 7.5 up on the Padres for the best record in baseball. We'll be getting to September roster expansion in just a few days. As we get close to the end of the year, Reichert looks like he's well positioned to lead the National League in ribbies for a second consecutive year. However, he's tied for second in home runs right now and 5 behind Juan Meza of the Rockies, so probably won't lead the league in homers 2 straight years. Nehemiah Vidale tied for second in the National League in wins. Chris McClintock second in saves, and Vidale is third in the National League in pitcher WAR. So still in a pretty good spot here. Hopefully we can keep chugging along, and we'll add 4 players onto the roster in September to hopefully keep the risk of significant injuries low. And as we get ready for this final month of baseball, our 95-41 record is 2 games above Pythagorean expectations. We still rank first in the National League with 132 runs scored. You can see we're in the top handful of most of the offensive statistical categories, and we still rank first in the National League in runs allowed, and we are leading the National League in just about every pitching category, and very good defense as well. Added 2 pitchers, Mike Jaramillo, the young reliever who was up briefly when Auclair was on the IL about a month ago, and then Chris Warrior, who is a 23-year-old, was a third-round pick in 2042. Looks like he could be a useful reliever as well, so we're going to see what those 2 guys can do, helping bolster the pitching staff. And then we also promoted 2 everyday players. Jim Weisenbach, the 25-year-old shortstop, no question about his glove. The bat is the question. He was with Seattle briefly at the end of the season, the year before we traded for him. We've had him in Double-A Utica and Triple-A Albany the last 2 years. Hit .247 this year, was close to a league average offensive player in Albany. He'll be a defensive substitute for us, but he certainly could, if he plays well defensively, push himself into a position where he might make a postseason roster as an extra glove. David Sandoval is a former 5th-round pick in 2043 who has really developed well over the last couple of years. Had 25 homers and a .271 average in Double-A Utica this year. Promoted him to Albany, where he hit .313, 4 homers and 18 ribbies and 99 at-bats. He is not going to be an everyday player for us, just a left-handed bat off the bench. But we look at his ratings, and he could be a pretty interesting pinch hitter for us against right-handed pitching. So want to see what he can do. Weisenbach is also in his last option year this year, so it's time to start seeing a little bit of what he can do at the major league level, even though he's not going to be starting for us, because next year we won't be able to use those options to keep him in the minors. And we've clinched our record-extending 20th consecutive trip to the playoffs here on September 2nd with a win over LA 2-1. So, or that was yesterday actually, but officially clinched as of this morning when we woke up. So we will be playing playoff baseball. Now it's really just a matter of keeping the team healthy for these next several weeks and ensuring that with a 14.5 game lead and a magic number of 12 in the division, feeling pretty good about that situation, holding off the Padres, who are 8.5 games behind us at this point for the best record in all of baseball, which will ensure us home field advantage for as long as we are alive in the playoffs. 2 weeks left in the regular season at this point. I had an interesting series this past week against San Diego, the second best team in baseball, and they did take 2 out of 3 against us on their home turf. We then won 3 in a row at Colorado, so we're home for 3 against Montreal, home for 3 against Washington, brief road trip down to Atlanta for 3 games, and then we finish off with 4 at home against Pittsburgh. Taking a look at the standings, the magic number is down to 2. We are 102-47, and we have an 8.5 game lead over the Padres for the best record in baseball. So feeling pretty comfortable at this point that we will have home field for as long as we are in the playoffs. And another excellent week in the book for our Buffalo Wings. We went 5-1 at home against the Expos and the Nationals, clinched the NL East. So just 7 games to go against the Braves and the Pirates, and the goal at this point is just to remain healthy. Team is perfectly healthy right now at 107-48. We're also, it looks like, 8.5 ahead of the Padres for the best record in baseball, so we're going to have the best record in baseball again this year. Looks like we should top the 109 wins that we had a year ago. Not going to get quite to the 118 that we had in 2040 in the best regular season that we've ever had in Buffalo. but still looks like it's going to be an excellent season for our Buffalo Wings here in 2047. And it was a solid finish to the season for the Buffalo Wings. We swept the series against Atlanta, and then we did actually lose 3 of our last 4 games to the last place Pirates at home, which was not optimal. But I say it was a successful week because there is really nobody with any serious injury issues at this point. So we've made it through the season. Josh Fuchs has shoulder tendonitis, minimal impact for 2 days with the time we're going to have off to the NLDS. That's not an issue. So we are fully healthy and ready to go when this postseason begins and takes place in our next episode. 111-50 the record, ended up 13 ahead of the Nationals in the NL East, and we ended up 8 ahead of the Padres for the best record in baseball. Reichert leads the league in ribbies for a second consecutive year, finishes second with 44 this year after hitting a league best 53 a year ago. Juan Toledo, in his first full major league season, finishes third in the league in OPS. Arturo Casares hit a 23-game hitting streak, second best in the NL. Vidale, in his first season in Buffalo, second with 19 wins in the NL, third with a 2.81 ERA. He was, however, behind Chris Newell of St. Louis in both of those categories, who will probably be the Cy Young Award winner. Chris McClintock finishes tied for second with 45 saves. His ERA ballooned to 0.93 over the last couple of months of the season. It was 0.19 as of the beginning of August. And Nehemiah Vidale, his first year with us, ended up second in the National League in pitcher WAR. We've run another set of scouting reports, see what Barajas looks like, and his stuff has really fallen off again since the last time we checked in. His stuff is now below average. So when we signed Barajas to that 4-year contract, given that he's almost 39 years old, we were insistent that the final year be a team option, and he went for it, and it looks like that will pay off for us because the question about Barajas right now with his profile and how good our pitching staff is honestly whether he will even be on the postseason roster. He's certainly not going to be in the rotation. You look at that rotation, we've talked about Vidale, Lance 13-5, 328, Black 14-7, 366, and Coles 13-8, 417. Those will likely be the 4 guys in the rotation for the playoffs. We've got a ton of options to choose in the bullpen. They've made some decisions for us as the computer does when the season ends, but we'll be actually figuring out our playoff roster for ourselves. Take a quick look at the 2 guys that we called up. Jim Weisenbach, only 3 at-bats over 6 games as a defensive substitute. He was 1 for 3 with a double, so he was very productive in the limited time that he played, but our manager did not make much use of him as a defensive substitute, and it looks like our AI has taken the other young outfielder off of the potential postseason roster, which very well may end up being the case, but David Sandoval, 0 for 7 in his first 7 at-bats at the major league level with 3 strikeouts. We ended up moving on from Mr. Flores, as we talked about. Juan Ramiro, while he was with the team, was very productive. Hit 319 with 9 homers and 23 ribbies and 94 at-bats. Gives us a captain personality in the clubhouse to go along Coles, and expect that although he may not be starting all that often in the playoffs, he is a dangerous pinch hitter for us coming off the bench. So looking forward to seeing what this team can do in the postseason this year. 20th straight trip, and we are looking for our 6th World Series championship in what is probably the final days for Alexis Barajas as a member of the Buffalo Wings. And once he's gone, the final link to all 5 championship teams that we put together will be gone. And we'll find out whether we're able to earn a sixth title in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.